Drunk Dog Creative. I'm Bridget A, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make the Elegant Christmas Trees card. I'm also going to give you a little bit of a bonus card as well. These are just a couple I've made using what I am falling in love with as a Christmas colorway, which is combinations of Pretty Peacock, Lost Lagoon, and Blackberry Bliss. I'm using the Season of Elegance Suite collection, which is out now from Stampin' Up. It's just a gorgeous collection, and I'll show you a bit of it in a minute. I'm going to make the card in this tutorial in Garden Green and Real Red, but I wanted to show you how it looks in this. I've ended up making quite a bit of this one. As of the three, it was my favorite. And I'll explain a bit about that as we go along. But let me show you this suite real quick. And this is a little bit of a bonus card that I made using the same suite, which at the end I'll give you some instructions for. The suite itself has two stamp and die bundles. It has Peaceful Season and Peaceful Evergreens. And Peaceful Season is a whole bunch of sentiments and also some wonderful dies. This one obviously cuts out the word Christmas, and this cuts out a background for the word to sit on. I think I've got an example of that here. If you can, oh yeah, I've got ink all over my hands today. Please forgive me. It didn't wash off easily enough, but that's where I cut the word out and put it on a plain background. But it's also got die cuts that go with all of the sentiments. So that's Peaceful Season. Then Peaceful Evergreens gives you so much to play with, and I've only used a little bit of it for these cards, but there's a whole set of stamps. So you've got your star, you've got some background swirls, some snow, 3 different single trees and a group of 5 trees, and then you've got dies that go with them. So you have for each of those single trees, you have both a die to cut out the entire tree and a die to cut out just branches. Now that can be used on its own to be a tree, or can be used as an overlay, like I've done on this card where I've overlaid it. And then a snowy cutout so you can see through the paper. This forms a bow. There's a star, a square, and then the cutout for the 5 trees. So those are the 2 stamp and die bundles that come with this suite. Now, of course, they can be purchased separately. You also get this beautiful 3D embossing folder that makes these gorgeous Christmas tree background with the suite. And you get these papers, and I've used most of this one already, but that's the Pretty Peacock in gold. The front is foiled in gold, and the back is a plain sort of two-tone or monotone. So you get that beautiful Pretty Peacock, you get the Real Red, you get the Garden Green, and you get the Vanilla Beige and Gold. And you get several sheets of each that come with that suite. And then there's other things with it like gold dot adhesives and Real Red and gold ribbon, which I don't have out right now. But go to the website or to bridgeta.stampinup.net and have a look at the whole suite. I'm going to show you how to make one of these cards. The only thing different is that I've used, for the one I'm about to show you, I've used the Painted Trees 3D embossing folder, which can be purchased separately or as part of the suite. Whereas for these cards, I used the Birchwood 3D, which is a very large, as you can see, quite a large embossing folder, which is awesome. That comes with the Winterly Treetops suite, which I'll demonstrate in another week. But this one can also be purchased separately, and I just liked the kind of wood background to those. But I've obviously on this one, I've used the trees. So I'll come back to that card at the end. So let's get started with what we need. These are our pieces. So you can go any color scheme you want. All I'm going to show you right now in this tutorial is the basic building blocks for this card, and then how you decorate the front. Completely up to you. Go wild, use my examples or design your own. But what we've got is a piece of Garden Green that is 210 millimeters by 148 millimeters tall. And then we've got a front for it out of basic white that is 100 millimeters wide by 143 millimeters tall. And I've already gone ahead and embossed that with the Painted Trees embossing folder. And because I'm going to put corners on it, I just kind of, put it on wherever I wanted to. I dry emboss that. You can leave it plain. You can emboss it with any embossing folder you want if you want that bit of texture, but they fit together like that. Then you're going to want a piece of that DSP, the Season of Elegance DSP, that is 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters square, and a mat for it. And what I've done is use the contrasting color to the card background and the color that contrasts to this. So if I was making this card with the red and gold, I would have a red card base with a green mat for the triangles. So these two pieces will make the triangles. This is 80 by 80 and 85 by 85, and I'll show you how to do the triangles in a minute. Then you need the pieces for the front. So again, I've gone with a color that is the same as the card base so that there's contrast. You can do this any way you want. This piece is 80 by 80. And you need a white piece that is 75 by 75. And again, I've embossed it in that folder. And you can see I did it fairly thickly, so you don't actually tell that they're trees. I just wanted the texture of the trees to hide behind the actual trees. So that's those pieces. Then for the inside, I've done the contrasting color as my mat. And I've done that at 100 mil wide by 143 mil tall. And a piece of white to write on. The writing panel is 95 wide by 138 tall, and that goes inside. And there's some fun things you can do with that. I'll give you some examples. I've done the Merry Christmas, Love from My Home to Yours stamped inside. What did I do? On this one, I've stamped the small group of trees on the bottom for that bonus card. So all sorts of fun things. All right, so let's talk about the assembly. The first thing I have to do is cut these into triangles. And that's where I'm going to get out my paper cutter from Stampin' Up, because this makes it very easy to do triangles. You can see this line here, which is actually a channel groove. If I put my points, diagonal points, on that groove, and I drop that, I probably should have moved that out of the way. This is my scoring blade and this is my cutting blade, and I leave them at separate ends because I have mixed them up and used the wrong one at the wrong time. So I've got the points, the opposite diagonal points in that groove. I close the guard and I just move the cutting blade, and I've got my two triangles. And then I do the same for their mat. I put those 2 points right in the groove, drop the guard, and cut straight through. And then I've got the mats. It is that simple. Put this away for a sec. What I am going to do with these now is I'm getting out my silicone mat that I use when I'm gluing. I'm going to glue these two pieces onto these two pieces, but I'm going to do it so that there is only a border along the long side of the triangle. And if you're really confident with tape, you can use tape, but this might need some wiggling around. So I am going with glue. So I've got my multi-purpose liquid glue here. And I'm just gonna squeeze a dot in the middle and then rub it, especially to the edges and the corners. And then I'm going to line this up so that you don't see an edge on the short sides, or much of an edge, and that's why you need to wiggle it a little. I'm gonna line it up so that I've only got the border at the bottom. And I'm gonna do the same with this one. Put my cap back on my glue. You can tell that's well loved. It's very, very, very tacky glue. So you're going to want a wet wipe or a wet Chucks or a wet something nearby to wash it off your hands when you're done with it, because it really sticks to your hands. So then I'm going to just press that down. So I've got my two triangles. I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to put this away. And I'm going to wipe my hands very clean of that glue so I don't get it on anything else just yet. I'm sorry my hands are so grotty. I've been making cards all day and it'll take forever to get the ink off because I've just used too much. So while those are drying, I'm going to start to organize my card front. And for this, I will probably use tape, but you can also use glue. I'm going to put some tape. I should have left my silicone here, sorry. I'm going to put tape right along the edges of my triangles. And I'm going to line this up right at the edge so that there's no white showing left and right or left and bottom, or as much little white as possible. And I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, don't tell me I'm already out. I might have to refill this in a sec. No, there's a little bit left. Hopefully enough to get this done. Nope, time for a refill. I'll be back in a minute. I'm now back with my refill. Which, yeah, okay. That's my top corner, so I'm going to line this up again as close as I can to the corner. And then the trees still show through. You can see it's a slightly different look to that, but I think it still works with this set quite well. All right, that part's done. So now it's time to fix up my front. I'm going to put, just affix this to the background. So again, get up my Stampin' Seal or glue, whichever you prefer. Just go around the edges. And I'm going to center that. This is when I really like to use my glass mat, which has the grid on it, because it really helps with centering. And then that will be placed on there eventually, just like that. But the next thing I'm going to do is I've folded my card. I've scored it at 105 millimeters, and I folded it in half with my bone folder. So now I'm going to fix my front onto the front of that. Again, trying to leave an even margin of the green all the way around. And then the only thing left to do is decorate this bit and then affix it with some dimensionals onto the card. Now, I am going to decorate this, and I am going to show you how I do that. But if you want to skip that and not watch that, all you need to know is if you look at this angle and flip it over, you can put some dimensionals like foam tape along there and a little bit of glue at those points. And then it would be glued in those corners and held up by dimensionals there. So it has just a little bit of 3D effect, and the dimensionals compensate for the double layer rise of these two layers, as you can see on that. And you put it there. And then you would do your inside. You would simply stamp whatever you want on the inside, tape it or adhere it or glue it to its mat, and then fix it to the inside, and that's your writing area. And the reason I use a double layer of cardstock on the inside is that this front is fairly heavy with its layers. So you want some layers on the inside to balance the weight for when people stand the card up. It just helps it stand better. Otherwise, you do you, whatever you want. That's as simple as it is to create this card and put it together. If you want to see more about how I decorated these, hang around. And at the end, I'm going to give you the dimensions and the instructions for how to make this card as well. So fast forward or go make something, or hang around and let's talk about decorations. All right, so let's talk about how to decorate this front to go on here. While the main color in this DSP is the garden green, there's also a bit of Old Olive, which just gives an interesting, almost monochromatic contrast. So I'm going to take a piece of olive green and the garden green ink and stamp a couple of trees to cut out. So I want the little one, the little individual one, and I want the bigger one, the middle-sized one for this card. So what I'm going to do is just put that on my block. Now you can see why my hands look like they do. Ink that up, and I'm just going to stamp it in the middle of this like 10 centimeter, 5 centimeter strip. And I would clean that off right away normally. Then I'm going to take a bigger block for the medium tree, and I'm going to stamp it. What I love about these stamps is it gives kind of an old world watercolor look. So some of them, if you can look closely, I don't know if I can zoom in, the whole stamp doesn't stamp, quote, cleanly. It's supposed to stamp almost like it's a watercolor. If I show you on the new basic beige color, you'll get a clear idea. See how some of it is kind of lighter and more pixelated than the rest, and it's meant to be. So even that would look really pretty on the front of the card. Try that with the beige. That might work too. Or the olive. I might cut both out and see how we go. Let me do both of those. I love this new basic beige paper. It gives you a really neat alternative to vanilla or white. Let me just wash these and be right back. All right, I've sort of cleaned them up. I'm going to pop them back in here. I don't always keep the full rubber background. I'm not sure why I did in this case, but what I want right now is I want to cut the littlest tree out, just the background, but I want both dies for the middle tree, and I want the star. So I'm going to pull those out for a minute and explain what we're going to do. I've got a little piece of glitter, gold glitter card from my stash that I'm going to use for the star and the front of that. But right now I'm going to cut out these trees. So what I've got is, pull this over. This is well loved and well used, and I really, really need to replace my base right now. But this is my little Stampin' Up! Cut and Emboss Mini. It folds up like that. It's the cutest thing ever. It sits on my desk when I don't want to get up and walk over to my electric die machine. And for these size cuts, it is perfect. So I'm just going to tear that off. You don't have to. It's just me being me. I'm going to, I hope you can see this. I'm going to line my die up. I've got a little bit of mint tape here. And Stampin' Up's dies and stamps are pretty easy to line up. Everything kind of goes where you think it will. And I just put a little bit of mint tape on there just to be sure. Then I'm just going to run this through, and the whole table will shake and the camera will shake. Sorry about that. I'm going to run that through, and then I've got that cut out. I'm actually going to do the olive one and make a decision as to which one I want for this project, because I'm not sure. Might give you some different ideas. Like I said, I've been making them in the other colorway, so this is the first time making in this colorway. Put that back in my machine. Try not to shake the whole table. Sorry if you're getting nauseous from the camera shake. I apologize. I'll go slower than I normally would to minimize that. All right, so this will be the middle one, and I'm not sure whether I like that one or that one better. So we'll have to see. Anyways, I'm going to cut out the other two that I stamped as well, and then do a third die cut with the gold. Now that those are done, I'm going to I don't think I need tape for that. I'm going to cut this more skeleton tree out of the star out of the gold foil. Now, I find gold foil is harder to die cut than most things, so I'm going to run it through twice. Sometimes if you use a bit of wax paper between the die and the foil and the glitter, it helps. Just going to see if that worked. Yeah, okay, good. It did. I'm going to take my, take your pick and just gently pull that off there and gently pull that off there, and not all of the little pieces came out, so I'll just use my pick to get the rest of them poked out. Easy. And I will put my little Stampin' Cut Mini away. And I always put my dies and my stamps away immediately, because inevitably, if I don't, they go missing and I can't find them on the table. And then I find it later and I don't know what set it goes with. So I always put these away right away. Oh, and for those of you who haven't seen my videos, I took a piece of magnet sheet that had an adhesive backing and I cut it to size and I put it on the front of the case that the stamps come in, so my stamp and dies are always together. All right, so now we can decorate a front. The first thing we do is we're going to put the gold skeleton over the the tall base. Now I do have to make a decision here. And if this was a live, I would get you voting, but I can't do live on YouTube until I've got over 1,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy this, please subscribe. And once I get to 1,000, I can start doing lives. So I'm going to put them on here like this, and I'm going to grab my card base to see whether I like it. Oh, I think it does look good with the green. I think with the beige, it just introduces a new color. Oh, no, I don't know. I might have to do both at some point because I'm not sure which I like better. All right, comment below on whether you like the basic beige or the old olive. I'm going to go with old olive for now because that was my original idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue this piece, the gold piece, on top of the die cut tree. So I'll get my silicone pad again. And this is when I would use the top edge of the multi-liquid because it's a much thinner nozzle. And I'm going to get some glue and kind of run it around this. You want some of those edges at least so that they stick. And this is why this silicone sheet is so useful. Now, if you happen to have something like a Xyron or a sticker maker, if you're doing a lot of these like I did earlier today, one of the things I would highly recommend is using that instead of fiddling with glue on every single one. Like if you made 20 of these like I did today, just run it through the Xyron and put a sticker back on it, or when you die cut it, put adhesive backing on the foil. It'll make it harder to die cut, but makes it easier. If you're only doing a few, there's no problem with glue. Actually, if you're doing a lot, you may not mind using the glue, but I find if I'm doing a lot of them, I'll put an adhesive backing on delicate pieces like that. The other thing I want to do is put the star on it. And of course I put my silicone mat away, didn't I? All right, so I'm just going to put glue kind of on that bottom bit of the star because I only want that bottom bit attached to it. And I want it sticking up a little bit. Get my wet wipe back. Normally I have a damp Chuck's wipe, so I'm not using disposable wipes, but I can't find it. I put it somewhere. So I've got my two trees. The other thing I did is I took a little piece, and those were scrap pieces of paper that were about 5 centimeters wide. I took a little piece, a scrap piece of the Real Red, and I just put the stamp Peace and Joy from the Peaceful Season set, and then just cut like an arrow. But honestly, you can use, you know, any of the dies with the set. You can or use anything you want. But this is how I've done it for the other cards. I'm going to take my smallest tree and I've put some tape on it. And I'm going to line it up so that it's near the left side with a little gap and probably centered on the piece. That's how I've lined it up. Then I'm going to take my bigger tree with the gold and the star, and I'm going to take some dimensionals. I'm going to use 2 of the normal dimensionals with my take your pick. So one at the bottom. One at the middle. My hands are very tacky from the glue. And then I'm going to take one of the mini dimensionals. I love these guys. And I'm going to put it up near that top. You can see how the normal one would be too big there. So I'm going to put it near the top. And then I'm going to peel these off. Now here's a hint for you. If you're taking a lot of these off, if it's 1 or 2, it's not so annoying. But if you're taking a lot of these backings off, just lift it with your take your pick, put it on a piece of cardstock or a piece of paper or anything, so that when you go to throw them out, all you have to do is pick up the cardstock and throw it out. If they're on your table, they tend to stick to things and then they're hard to kind of sweep off. So that's my little hot tip. Anyways, let's take this bigger tree and I'm going to center it in the card and I'm going to put it down near the bottom and overlapping the other one, and the star is going to stick up the top, and those dimensionals just hold it a little bit off the background. And then I'm going to take my little tag here and I'm going to put 1 regular size dimensional on it, on this end, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the other end because it's going to overlap the tree, which is already raised. So this needs 2 different levels of adhesive. So there's my dimensional, which I will put over with the others, and a little bit of glue. I'm going to turn it over, and how I've done this is I've put it about a third way up, and I've lined it up with the edge of the white, and then I press it in place. And then the glue holds it there and the dimensional holds it there. And that's your front done. So what's left to do is to center it on your card. So how I've done this is I want dimensionals along that line. So I know they need to go there. So 3 dimensionals or foam tape, whatever you've got. But I find the dimensionals so much easier to use than foam tape, especially getting their backing off. They are just so easy. Whether you use your take your pick like I have, whether you use tweezers, whether you use your hands, these backs pop off really well. And then I'm going to take my glue. And again, remember, it's 2 different heights because of those corners. So I'm going to put a little glue in the corner, and I've got my dimensionals. And then I'm going to carefully center it on the card and press down on the glue and press down on the dimensionals, and there is the front of your card, made and decorated. It was that easy. Now, if you want to stamp another sentiment on the inside, I'm going to leave that up to you to do. You stamp your white piece with whatever you want. You center it on its mat and adhere it, whether it's with tape or glue, which I'm not going to do right now because I do want to stamp something on it for when I send this out. And then, of course, you center it there, and you've got the inside of your card. Now, you can see some of these I've stamped, and I smudged that one, and I'm so mad. These are all from Peaceful Season. I'd used the Merry Christmas, Love from My Home to Yours. And on other cards, I've used other sentiments from there. That one just says Merry Christmas. And you can see this one I've done the same front because that's the one I decided I liked the best. But I was playing around and I used one of the dies from the Peaceful Season set and some blackberry and gold ribbon to do that. And then this one, I also tried the flag, but flat down underneath one tree, one of the smaller trees. And that was another option. So you can see there's a few different ways to do this. And honestly, you can use this for any occasion. Use any colors you want. any embossing backgrounds, any front design for any occasion. So I'm going to show you something a little different right now. If you just give me 1 second, I'll be right back. I want to show you something a little different. I mentioned earlier the Winterly Treetops suite, which is another one I love. I'm going to give you a sneak preview using that same card design, but with the papers and stamps from the Winterly Treetops set and the stamps from the Peaceful Season bundle. So this is what happened. Now I am going to do a different tutorial next week on the Winterly Treetops bundle with a different design, but I wanted to show you that this design can be really, really versatile. And can be used for all sorts of things. And it doesn't have to be just Christmas. But this was another idea. Now, what's interesting about this is part of the DSB paper, but the stamp and die bundle the dies cut out some of the birds from the papers. So I thought that was really cool. Anyways, that was just a little bit of a sneak preview of something else coming with a different design, but how you can use this design to do different things. Now, the last thing I said is I was going to give you a quick sneak peek at a bonus design. Now, I told you at the start I was going to give you a bonus peek at this bonus design that I've done. Again, I'm using the Season of Elegance DSP, the basic beige, and then some other colors to make these. So this is simple. It is your normal card base, which would be 210 by 148, right? 210 by 148, scored at 105, folded in half. Your background is the piece of basic beige or whatever color you want that is 143 by 100. So there's no matte. That's the background. Then there's this strip, which is a strip of the Season of Elegance paper. These strips are 143 millimeters wide by 25 millimeters tall. And all I did here is I affixed, glued the strip to the basic beige and then ran them through the embossing folder, the Painted Trees embossing folder at the same time. So you can see the foil is embossed as well as the background. And that gave me a really neat background. And then I stamped that tall tree on basic beige with Lost Lagoon. So this uses Blackberry Bliss as your card base, the Pretty Peacock Lost Lagoon Gold DSP, and then Lost Lagoon for the tree. But for this one, I used Garden Green for the tree with Real Red as the base and basic beige. Then I used, instead of the stamp for Christmas, I used the die cut to cut out a basic beige background and then a Blackberry Bliss word or a Real Red word. Now I've done two different things for this card. For the Mary on this, I cut a small piece of Real Red and embossed with gold embossing powder the word Mary. For this one, I stamped the word Mary with Blackberry Bliss before I embossed the background. I kind of had a rough idea of where to go, and if it got a little embossed, it didn't matter. And that's how I did that. And then I just used some little embellishments from my stash on that. I still haven't done this one yet, but I'll probably use some of the gold ones on this or some red ones. And that's just a very simple, almost elegant rustic card, and really easy to do, like really easy. And then for the inside, I used the Lost Lagoon as the matte, the white, and then I stamped in Lost Lagoon the little trees from that set. So this all uses the Season of Elegance suite. And there you go. There's a whole bunch of Christmas cards in all different colors and sizes for you. Keeping in mind, you can use this for any occasion. If you use the basic design, and then all you got to do is change colors, change papers, and change what you decorate it with. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy making.